I'm a Swede living in Brazil, and these are the cultural differences that took a long time to adjust to. But before I start talking about the differences, I just want to say that I'm not criticizing Brazil. I'm not saying it's bad. I really love living here in Brazil. And so if there are any Brazilians watching this, please don't get offended. Okay, so the first difference I had problems adjusting to was the food. Now, Brazil has lots of nice food. I mean, one of the main ones that you think of straight away are Brazilian barbecues, and they are really good. I mean, Brazilians love to have barbecues. A lot of them have it every weekend. They invite friends and family over, and it's a big event. And they really like to barbecue beef, and they've got some special cuts. There's one in particular called picanha, and they just put a bit of salt on it, put it in the charcoal barbecue, and it tastes really good. So I mean, I would say that Brazilian barbecues are much better than Swedish barbecues and any other barbecues that I've tasted, that's for sure. And then there are many other really nice dishes. You've got feijoada, which is beans mixed with sausages and meat, which is very nice. You've got moqueca de camarão, which is this prawn or shrimp dish. You've got pastéis, which is a pastry filled with meat and cheese. You've got cheese bread, coxinha, brigadeiro, which is the sweet made of condensed milk. You've got açaí as well, made from açaí fruit. So I mean, there's lots of really nice food in Brazil. However, there were some food dishes which I had problems adjusting to, and the first one was rice and beans. Now don't get me wrong, I really like rice and beans, but many Brazilians, they eat rice and beans every day. Now they add other things to it, so they add some beef, chicken or fish or something and some vegetables, but you've always got rice and beans on the plate. Now, not all Brazilians do this, but many do. And when I arrived in Brazil, we stayed with my wife's family for a bit, and day one for lunch, I was served rice and beans and some beef. And then on the second day, they served rice and beans again with some chicken. And I thought, oh, it's a bit weird having rice and beans again on the second day. But I guess it's maybe leftovers from yesterday. Okay, so it kind of makes sense. We do that in Sweden as well. But then on the third day, I got rice and beans again. And I asked my wife, why are we getting rice and beans every day here? Where are the potatoes, the pasta? And she's like, oh, no, my family likes to eat rice and beans every day. But I ate it. I'm like, okay. But then on the fourth day when I was served rice and beans again, I was like, I just can't eat this anymore. I need some variety. But obviously, it was fine. I mean, then we started cooking and we moved out and it was not a problem. But that was a bit of a shock for me. And then another thing I just could not eat were chicken hearts. So I mean, I talked earlier about how barbecues in Brazil are great, but sometimes they throw these chicken hearts on the barbecue and I just cannot eat them. I remember the first time I saw chicken hearts at a barbecue, and there was this serving plate just full of chicken hearts, and I'm like, what is this stuff? And then they were like, oh, it's chicken hearts. And I'm open to trying new things, so I tried it, but I just found them chewy, and I just didn't like the taste at all. And I'm not sure if it's like this in the whole of Brazil, but if you go to a pizzeria here in the south, they've even got chicken hearts on the pizza. And yeah, I've never ordered that topping on my pizza. So yeah, there's lots of good food here in Brazil, but there are a couple of things that I just found difficult to adjust to. Okay, another cultural difference I had problems adjusting to was greeting people and also saying goodbye to people here in Brazil. So here in Brazil, it's very common when you greet a woman that you kiss her 1 time or 2 times on the cheek. But I'm not just talking about close family members and friends, I'm talking about acquaintances, people at work, neighbors. So yeah, there's a lot of kissing when you meet people here in Brazil. And this is very strange for a Swede because you hardly kiss people in Sweden. You mainly shake hands and maybe you give a hug if you're greeting someone who's, a close family member or a friend, but that's it. Now I should point out that not all Brazilians do this, especially here in the south where you can have some towns and cities which have a very German influence. So here I think there's less kissing when you greet people. But still saying that, I still had to kiss many people and that was a shock for me. And then another thing is saying goodbye to people, which again I found very different to what I'm used to. So I mean, if I'm at a party and I'm ready to leave the party, then yeah, I'll go to the people who are hosting the party and say goodbye to them and maybe say goodbye to 1 or 2 other people. But for the rest of people, you just kind of shout goodbye, wave a bit, and then you leave. But in general, that's not what Brazilians do when they leave. So they have to go and say goodbye to the majority of people. It's lots of kissing, and then they start talking again, and it can last a long time before a Brazilian manages to say all their goodbyes and leave a party or something like that. And okay, so another cultural difference is arriving late to things. So in Sweden, being punctual is very important. So in general, if you invite Swedes to a party, they'll arrive on time, or maybe even, 10, 15 minutes early. But with Brazilians, if you invite them to parties, social events, then they can arrive an hour or even 2 hours late. So this was a big cultural shock for me. And the first couple of times I was invited to parties here in Brazil, I arrived on time. And when I got there, the people organizing hadn't even finished organizing the party. So I was the first guest there, and I basically had to start helping the people organize the party. So there's kind of a rule here in Brazil that if you're invited to a party, then you should really arrive half an hour to an hour late. You should basically never arrive on time to parties. And with my Brazilian wife's family, this is definitely the case. They're constantly arriving late. And one thing I find really funny is that when you call them up and they're late and they say, "Eu estou chegando," I'm arriving. But actually, they're still at home and they're about to leave their house. So yeah, you just need to be a bit more relaxed here in Brazil about when people arrive. But saying that, when it comes to other things like business meetings, then Brazilians are a lot more punctual. And then also, it depends where in Brazil you are, because again, here in the south, where you've got more of a German influence, so here people are a lot more punctual. So it really does depend on where you live in Brazil. Okay, another thing that I had problems adjusting to is chimarrão. So this is a hot drink made out of yerba mate, and it's very popular in the south of Brazil. And how they drink it here in the south is they have this wooden cup, and they put the yerba mate in there, they pour hot water into the cup, and then they drink it using this metal straw. And I've tried it, but I just could not drink it. I found it very bitter, and then also they like to drink it really hot, and for me I kind of burnt my mouth and my tongue, and yeah, I just could not get used to drinking this. And this drink is really popular here in the south, so you see lots of people walking around with these wooden cups and then also a thermos flask full of hot water, and they just walk around drinking it. And you'll see lots of people sitting in the parks drinking it as well, and at work as well. So it's super, super popular. And also I found it very funny that they like to offer this chimarrão to people around them, and they all drink from the same straw. They offer it to one person who then sips from the straw, and then they pour in more hot water and they offer it to another person. So everyone's drinking from the same straw. And I just thought, oh, is that really hygienic? And everyone explains to me that, oh, because it's so hot, it kills all the bacteria, which makes sense. But then the drink is so hot, so you burn your mouth and your tongue. And then also I think is that they even drink this hot chimarrão in summertime. So it can be like 40 degrees Celsius outside, and you still see people drinking this hot chimarrão. Now, it is possible to drink cold chimarrão, and it's called tereré. But, I mean, all my neighbors, they still drink it hot, even in summertime. But then a big contrast to the really hot chimarrão are the really ice-cold beers that Brazilians like to drink. So Brazilians like to drink their beer ice-cold, so super cold. So, I mean, if you go to a restaurant, they like to serve the beers in glasses, which have kind of been kept in the freezer. So the glass is ice-cold, and then when the beer arrives, the bottle or the can comes in this kind of foam packaging around it to keep it cold. So it's very important for Brazilians that the beer is cold. And I think if you were to serve a room temperature ale, which is this beer that you drink in many European countries, I think a lot of Brazilians would not drink it. But this was a habit that I got used to very quickly, because I mean, especially in summertime, having a really cold beer is really nice. Okay, another thing that's a big part of Brazilian culture are flip-flops. So I mean, Brazilians, they love their flip-flops, especially one brand called Havaianas. So these are the flip-flops with kind of the wide strap that goes in between your toes. And you'll see Brazilians walking around with these, obviously at the beach, but also in town, in shopping malls, at home as well. So I think the majority of Brazilians have a couple of pairs of flip-flops at home. Now, I didn't grow up using these flip-flops. I use more sandals and Crocs. And so when I arrived there in Brazil, my wife bought me a pair of Havaianas, and I started using them. And yeah, at the beginning, it was great. I thought, oh yeah, these are great. But after a while, I started getting this pain between my big toe and my second toe, and it started getting all red, and it started bleeding. So yeah, my Swedish feet just weren't used to these Brazilian Havaianas. But now it's perfectly fine for me, so I think now my feet have adjusted to it. But at the beginning, it was a real struggle to use them. Okay, another thing is showering and brushing your teeth. So I grew up taking one shower a day and brushing my teeth twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. But here in Brazil, they take more showers, so it's very common to take a shower in the morning and in the evening. And then brushing your teeth, you brush your teeth 3 times a day, morning, after lunch, and in the evening. And so I met my wife when we were living in Europe. My wife called me dirty and weird because I just took a shower once a day and just brushed my teeth twice. And she asked me, how can you not take a shower in the evening? You're going to bed dirty because you've been out and about the whole day and you get sweaty. And so you want to take a shower before you go to bed. And I'm like, you don't get that sweaty. It's not that hot here. And obviously if I do some exercise or something, then yeah, I'll take a shower after that again because then I'm sweaty. But for the rest of the time, one shower is sufficient. And also in the Swedish culture, water preservation is very important as well. So people kind of see taking more than 1 shower a day as kind of wasting water. But since I've moved to Brazil, yeah, here I've changed my showering habits. So here it's a lot hotter, and I do take now 2 showers a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. But I make sure they're very quick so I don't waste water. And yeah, now that I'm here, I totally agree with my wife that feels a lot better than going to bed after having taken a shower. And in terms of brushing your teeth, so Brazilians in general, I think, brush their teeth 3 times a day. And it's very common that in work, after lunch, if you go to the bathroom, you'll see lots of people brushing the teeth in the bathroom. And lots of people bring their own toothbrush and toothpaste to work. Now, if you were to do that in England, Sweden, in Germany, people would think you're crazy. But I've now changed how I brush my teeth, and I now brush my teeth 3 times a day because I just think it feels a lot better brushing your teeth after lunch, so you remove any food stuck in between your teeth, so you're not walking around the whole afternoon and the evening with food stuck in your teeth. So again, that's another thing that I've changed since coming here to Brazil. Okay, and another difference is cleaning. So I talked earlier about how Brazilians need to take lots of showers and brush their teeth a lot to make sure they're clean. But then they also like to keep their houses very clean as well. So they clean their house frequently and very thoroughly. Lots of people have cleaners or even maids. And I know some people who have a maid and a cleaner. And so the maid kind of cleans some of the house, and then they have a cleaner who comes and does the deep cleaning. And I would say that Swedish people, they clean their houses less, and having cleaners and maids, definitely not maids, but having cleaners, again, is less common in Sweden. And I think that's partly down to the fact that cleaners are a lot more expensive in Sweden. But also I think it's the fact that Swedish are a bit more relaxed about how clean their houses are. So, and also the way Brazilians clean their houses are a bit different as well. So we Swedes, we use vacuum cleaners a lot to clean the floor. So a lot of Swedish homes have carpets, and you kind of have to use a vacuum cleaner to clean carpets. But in Brazil, they like to put tiles down throughout the whole house. And so they like to use a broom. And actually, I've seen a lot use a broom, but then they put a cloth kind of wrapped around the broom, and they make that a bit wet, and they use that as well to clean the floor. So instead of using a mop, they kind of adapt the broom to become kind of a mop with this cloth around it. And also another thing that shocked me was that some Brazilians, they like to use a lot of water when they clean the floor inside the house and also outside. So they pour a lot of water on the floor, and then they use their squeegee with a rubber blade to remove the water. And also when they're cleaning in the paths and the driveways outside, instead of sweeping them, they just use a hose, and then they remove all the dirt and the leaves and everything just by spraying water on them rather than just sweeping them away. And yeah, you would definitely not do that in Sweden. Obviously, not all Brazilians do this. There are many who use vacuum cleaners inside and sweep the driveways outside rather than use water, but it's still pretty common to see. Okay, and another difference is using WhatsApp Messenger. So here in Brazil, they love to use WhatsApp to send messages, and people create loads and loads of groups. So lots of groups for different family members, groups for friends, groups for the parents at the school, groups for neighbors. And so you get loads and loads of messages from all these groups on WhatsApp every day. Now in Sweden, WhatsApp also is pretty popular, not as popular as in Brazil. And also one big difference is how they use WhatsApp. So Brazilians, a lot of them like to send voice messages using WhatsApp. So instead of typing the message, they just send a voice message. And this is something that's definitely not common at all in Sweden. People like to type out the message. And for me, I find it very annoying getting voice messages on WhatsApp, because many times you're in either a very crowded area, which is very noisy and you can't hear the message and you haven't got any headphones, or you're in a place which is really quiet, and you don't want to disturb the people around you. And also when you want to search for things, so like you remember a while ago you got this message giving you this information and you want to find it again. It's impossible to find it if you've just got a million voice messages, but it's very easy to find it if it's a typed message. Yeah, so this is something I haven't adjusted to, and I don't think I will do. I still do not like getting voice messages on WhatsApp. And then another thing is that Brazilians seem to love pharmacies and notary offices, because there are lots in every city and every town. So if you go to a big city, you'll have hundreds of pharmacies and loads of these notary offices. And even if you go to a small town, there'll still be 2 or 3 pharmacies and at least 1 notary office. Now, in terms of pharmacies, I'm not sure why there are so many more pharmacies in Brazil than in Sweden. I mean, I don't think Brazilians get more sick than Swedes. But here in Brazil, it seems like people spend more money in pharmacies. I guess here in Brazil, the pharmacies sell a lot of other stuff, which isn't medication. So maybe that's why Brazilians go more to pharmacies. And also the opening hours for pharmacies in Brazil are very different to Sweden. And most pharmacies here in Brazil, they're open 7 days a week. They're open later. You've even got 24-hour pharmacies. And this is very practical here in Brazil, and a lot better than it is in Sweden and many other European countries where they're closed on Sundays, they close early in the evening. And so the only way of getting medication when these pharmacies are closed is going to hospitals and having to queue there. And in terms of notary offices, so they're called cartórios in Brazil. Again, you have one in basically every town and definitely a couple in every city. And actually, when I moved to Brazil, I had to go to them quite a lot because I had to get lots of copies of original documents authenticated and my signature authenticated as well. And you do all of that in cartórios. But I mean, comparing that to Sweden and many other Northern European countries, I don't think I ever went to a notary office there. I don't even know if they have some. I mean, I guess they do. And that's because you can authenticate your signature in other ways. You can get like a lawyer or a company director or something just to authenticate that it is your signature. And then lawyers do a lot more there rather than the notary offices, and also the local council as well. So that you kind of register a birth and marriage and everything with local councils rather than at the notary offices. So it's just a different way of doing things in Sweden compared to Brazil. So yeah, if you come to Brazil and you see these cartórios, then now you know what they do. Okay, and another difference is that here in Brazil you see a lot of people sitting in the front gardens just staring at the street. I remember when I arrived here in Brazil and I was driving around the city and I saw loads of people just sitting in the front gardens, and I thought, there must be something special happening today. It must be a parade or something. That's why they're sitting in the front garden waiting for this thing to happen. But then driving past again the next day, I was like, they're still sitting there. What are they doing? And then the next day they're still there. And then my wife explained to me that, no, people just like to sit in the front garden and look at the people walk past and the cars drive past. And yeah, this is definitely something you don't see in Sweden and Germany and the UK and in the States. Because in these countries, if you want to sit and relax in the garden, you're going to sit in the back where you've got a fence around you or a hedge around you, so you've got privacy and you're away from the street, so there's less noise, there's less pollution, and you can kind of just relax there. You wouldn't sit in the front, that's for sure. And maybe one reason why Brazilians like to do this is that they're more sociable compared to Swedes, maybe. And then another difference is that Brazilians love their plastic bags. So when you go to supermarkets and other stores here in Brazil, they'll always offer you lots of plastic bags to put your shopping in. I mean, they have reusable bags, but majority of Brazilians, they use plastic bags. And in a lot of supermarkets here in Brazil, you have employees who pack all your shopping into the plastic bags. And usually they just put a couple of things in each plastic bag. So you walk out of the supermarket with like 100 plastic bags, when actually you could have probably used half the amount of plastic bags if you'd actually filled them to the top. Now, I mentioned this in another video when I went to a supermarket. And a lot of people said that a lot of the plastic bags are biodegradable, which is good. I don't think all of them are though. And also Brazilians reuse these plastic bags as rubbish bags. So instead of buying separate rubbish bags, the black bin bags, they use the supermarket bags as rubbish bags. So that's one reason why Brazilians love their plastic bags. And also in a home in Brazil, you need a lot more rubbish bags than you do in Sweden, for example, because you need to have a rubbish bin in every bathroom where you put all the toilet paper, which you can't flush down the toilet. And then also you need a rubbish bag in the kitchen where you put all the food waste. And in Sweden, you don't need any of that because you flush the toilet paper down the toilet. And then for food waste, the majority of Swedish councils give you special bags to throw away your food waste. So you don't need to have your own plastic bags for that. And in terms of other rubbish, well, you need to go back to the supermarkets in Sweden to recycle your cans and your bottles. So yeah, the end result is you have a lot less rubbish to put into plastic bags to leave on the street to be collected in Sweden, that's for sure. But I'm not saying it's wrong here in Brazil, I'm just saying that was a bit of a shock when I came home with 100 plastic bags when I just bought a couple of things at the supermarket. So okay, so those were kind of the major differences that I noticed. I mean, there were many others which I haven't mentioned, and maybe I'll do another video about them in the future. But yeah, hopefully you liked this video. Any Brazilians watching this, hope you didn't get offended. That's not my intention. I'm just saying it's different. I'm not saying it's wrong. But yeah, if you like this video, please leave a like. If you've got any comments or anything, leave it down below. So thanks for watching. Until next time.